All right, Jusup, what's up, man?
What is up?
We're a couple days outside of the race, and a couple days back home. Everybody went home, and now you're just chilling. How you feeling?
Like it's not over. It still just feels like, yeah, I don't, it doesn't feel like real life still yet.
Yeah. How are you? Is your body recovering, or how's it feeling?
Yeah, slowly but surely. I mean, it definitely is. Like my feet don't feel like they've been dipped in magma and then ran over by a freight train. Um, but it's like, yeah, it still hurts, still has these it's just they're micro pains like deep within my feet. It's like so deep in there, and then the dreams and sleep have been pretty bad. Just like last night, all night, it's like I just um my whole dreams is just constantly like I got to get to the next place. I got to go to the next place, and like ready for the race to be over.
Even in your head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, I literally would wake up and I'd be like, dude, you have nowhere to be. Like, just chill.
Just relax.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, just to catch up, anybody who's listening today, can you explain what race we just got back from, what race you completed, and give us a little bit of information about the race?
Yeah. So what's up, everybody? I'm Jusup. I just ran the Florida 5K. It was pretty intense. No, we did the Cocodona 250, which is 250 miles across Arizona's vast landscape, little outside of Phoenix to Flagstaff, 40,000 feet of elevation gain. You're going from the low desert where there's uh, massive cactuses and scorpions and rattlesnakes to the high mountains where there's literally snow and uh, you see so many different types of environment and terrain throughout the whole thing. It's pretty
Yeah.
wild. We had 125 hours to complete it, and we took 124 hours and 17 minutes, I believe. So
You wanted to soak
we
all of that, all the money you put into it. You wanted to just soak it all in.
yeah, exactly.
That's smart. So, it's a little bit of I won't do a spoiler alert. Actually, we'll kind of go through it with the podcast. But did you want to start off with some questions?
Yeah. How? Why don't you tell everybody like how you decided you wanted to take up such a challenge and sign up for the Cocodona 250?
That guy right there. Uh, Will was telling.
Oh,
Well, Will was like, "Hey, I'm thinking about this race. It's a 250-mile race. It's called Cocodona 250." And I was like, "Oh, that sounds sick. That'd be something fun we should do." Well, I'm the only one that signed up. uh, but honestly, like I don't think it could have turned out any better. Even just like having you guys there with me, and it's like even with I'm tough, it's harder to segregate our crew and group of people to take care of people separately. So it really, I think, ultimately worked out having just one of us doing it because then the other person is support um, and I think that yeah, it'd be fun to do it as an adventure together, but you'd have to go into it with that expectation of, hey, we're doing
Staying.
this yeah, we're doing this together and we're not going to split up type thing.
Yeah.
um but it that was kind of the biggest. I mean, Cocodona wasn't on my radar until Will mentioned it and brought it up, and then like it being 18 months from when I had my spine infection, I thought like this is going to be the real test of whether I can put the discipline into training and if I can um, really pull this all together. And we did, but barely.
Yep.
You did, for sure.
Yeah.
Did you feel like your spine infection and everything you've gone through had a role in deciding that you wanted to do this, not just Will?
Um, well, I mean, I guess just like, yeah, anytime you have something that kind of challenges your life in general, and kind of threatens your life, it sets you back in within like kind of confidence and power within your own life, and like you realize like how little in control of things are, or that there are instances that can just end it at any point and you have nothing to say about it, and that kind of sets you back a little bit mentally, and um, doing things like a 250-mile race or even the 100-mile race that I did 3 months post the the recovery. These little accomplishments help rebuild that confidence and that power within yourself to regain that control of like I do have some kind of control within my life, and so I think it had a little bit of a say, not it was more of just a, this is not something that I would expect to do after having that happen, so might as well try to build from that.
Yeah.
Hey,
Be.
that was just a whole slew of animals. There's like the bike paths, so then they bark at each other, and
Oh.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah. So we, just to fill everybody in, me and Kinsey got to go down at about 150 miles is when we flew in, which would be the race started on a Monday, and me and Kinsey flew in late Wednesday night. We ended up getting there kind of like essentially Thursday morning, early in the morning, when Jusup was coming up on like 150 something miles. Um, that first 150 miles when we weren't with you and just you had your brother and some of your other crew and Val Myers, you guys have heard, he's been on the podcast here before. Val um, had his attempt at Antarctica, so you guys have maybe heard that podcast. Val was down there pacing, but that first 150 miles, what was going through your mind, like when you, like, how do you break that up? Because 250 miles is so long and so far. What do you do when you're like, you've completed 100-mile one time, and you've DNF'd a couple races? Like, how do you compartmentalize that distance?
I it's crazy because like you do the first 32 miles in this race is 10,000 feet of elevation gain. So it is a long start to the race. It's long and slow. And I don't even see the crew. I didn't see the crew but one time in the first. So I saw them at 37 and then again at 78. So
Wow.
that's like
Wow.
two, that's all I saw them for two chunks of time. And
Yeah.
and that's like, probably that was almost I want to say over a day and a half probably, that it took me to get there. So that was mile 78 when I actually got to take a pacer. And um, it was, I think it was interesting because like the first 37, I was in really good spirits. I felt great. I was making jokes and videos. I was joking with people. I was just in good spirits. And then once I got to the first aid station, my crew had got the RV stuck. And so once I got there, they were not, they were there, but not there.
Right.
And that kind of was a little bit of a blow. And so it was interesting because like I realized that A, I couldn't let anything any like mishaps outside of the race prevent me from continuing to go, because it's a very slippery slope in just your mindset of like, oh, things are not going right. This is just not my day. And with a race this long, like you're going to have that multiple times.
Mm,
You're gonna fall into those loops so many times that you got to figure out how to pull yourself out of that fast, because otherwise, like it's that'll be the thing that you just call it.
mm-hmm.
And then I started realizing that like I was able to compartmentalize sections, and if I could try to sleep a little bit, even if it was like 5 minutes, it would kind of reset my mind a little bit and feeling like it was a new day. And then um, I started like kind of compartmentalizing these into like smaller sections, because it it is such a long race that like things that were happening the day before started to feel like months ago.
Yeah.
It was like, wait a second, that was yesterday. And it felt like it was months ago. And I think there's so much that happens during this race, and there's so many ups and downs. And like you've said this many of times of like, ultra is a lifetime of emotions in one race. And when you go 5 days, when you go a whole, it's even, that's like,
Lifetime times five.
oh man. And it's wild how extreme it is, because you just have these massive highs and massive lows, and then you add on sleep deprivation, which, you reach sleep deprivation in a 100-mile race, but not to this extreme.
Mm-hmm.
This is to the extreme where like you start dipping into madness. I mean, you saw Robbie, like he started questioning what was real. Well, like life, this race didn't even exist. Like,
Yeah, that was a
uh,
trip.
it, and the thing is like it starts to feel like that. I mean, when we were going up Mount Eldon, I was blacking out every step, like full
Yeah.
on blacking out. And it's just you're, yeah, man. It just starts to feel like such a wild adventure, and you add that sleep deprivation, and then it makes it hard to look at it as one big picture. It becomes easier to compartmentalize it into smaller chunks. And as I'm watching some of the footage, I'm like, it still just does not feel real. Doesn't feel like this was all one long adventure. It feels like so many little micro things, and yeah, I don't. This doesn't
Do
feel
you feel
real.
like
Like,
you're starting to have like a come down from it all? And like, obviously, we talked about dopamine being so high, even though you're feeling the lows, you have highs and lows during the race, it's still like overall super, super high because you're just in something so intense.
well,
Like, that it's all done. Do you feel like you're like, oh, we call them
we
kind of like the
had the
blues?
highest finish possible too.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that it could have been a more climatic finish
That was the
ever.
most epic finish, dude, I've ever been a part of, and I've been doing this for like 6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
We've crossed a lot of finish lines and seen people cross a lot of finish lines, and like that one takes the cake, man.
Yeah.
it was
I don't know if it's
insane.
ever going to be beat, too. Like
Yeah.
it's going to have to be pretty epic to beat that.
Yeah.
Really, the
And
coolest I've ever seen.
it was insane. And so I think, yes, to answer your question, yeah. I mean, I definitely have these moments where I'm like, wow, that was sweet. We just finished something that's just going to put me in this crippling depression. But I just ran 250 miles to be real freaking depressed. Um, but no, I think it's also just mental exhaustion too. I mean, I think like my body is, like I was saying, it's hard to sleep right now. It's still having these crazy dreams, and um, I was waking up in panics, like I had to be at an or out of an aid station. And I think like for some people that they probably aren't experiencing that on the same level, because I was cutting it close. So it was just a constant anxiety of like, dude, you got this much time to get out. And I was watching footage and like, you just see me and I'm gone. Like as
Yeah.
they're taping my feet and I'm just like staring into the abyss as she's taping my feet and people are talking to me and I'm just like, and they're going, you have 3 minutes. And I'm like, gone.
That was, I think, the most frustrating part as crew and pacers is at times sometimes the lack of urgency that you would have because you were just a shell of a
Yeah.
human. Yeah, we'd be like, dude, there's 3 minutes, and you like still in bed in your sleeping bag.
Yeah,
You're like,
I'm moving.
yeah, I'm moving. Like, nah, you're not really moving. Like, you still got to put your shoes on and get your pack, and like, you'd squeak out with seconds to spare, which would like give everybody anxiety. I think we'd be
Yeah.
like, oh my god,
But like I don't know what else you do because like you're giving it your all, you know. It's not like I'm like being lazy. It's
oh
like,
yeah, you're not like in there watching cartoons.
yeah, I'm like I just need 2 seconds.
Well,
Because
and you would
now,
literally always ask for like
Couple more
just a
minutes.
couple more minutes,
yeah,
like a schoolboy.
yeah, and the thing is those couple more minutes like isn't gonna be enough either, you know. Like,
Yeah, but for whatever reason, like I mean, you just feel like you need them, and if they
yeah.
help you feel like then that's then you got to go with it. I
Well,
think.
and
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, and I mean, it obviously like in ways helped at points because I mean, then you had, those sections where like, I mean, we're past 150 miles and I was doing 13-minute miles. Like I had to in order to beat some of those cutoffs.
Yeah.
And I was looking at the Koros, like you can actually see the breakdown on some of those miles, and it was like 14, 14, 13, 14. I mean,
Yeah.
we're over 150 miles in. Like that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things I heard consistency as far as the difference between hundreds and these 200s is the sleep deprivation. Um, did you feel like that was the biggest thing? Because at some point, obviously, your body's like broken down, you're tired, but like the sleep deprivation, how did you feel like you handled that?
I mean, I think I was hit with the sleep deprivation the worst going up Mount Eldon.
Mm.
That was, and I mean, you saw it. Like I was literally like trying to bargain with you, and I mean, it was scary because I was blacking out as we're going up like very steep shit.
Yeah,
It was,
really sketchy. Not a good
yeah.
spot. I actually thought multiple times like I'd look over with my headlamp and be like, damn, like that's a long, steep like tumble for somebody to fall. And I'm surprised people don't fall down that thing, like because it's at the end of the race and like the state that
Well,
you are in.
I mean, like I'm literally blacking out, and then when I'm not, I'm looking at the ground, and it's just going, and you're just like, oh gosh, like,
The highest trip you've ever been on.
oh man, it was terrifying.
That's what I kept saying. I said like it's all the effects of drugs with no drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um. So yeah, I mean, I think that was the hardest part because yeah, like you said, like once your body's in pain, your body's in pain. Like it's pretty much the same throughout the whole
Mm-hmm.
race. Like yeah, you
Just
can
manage.
all yeah, yeah, and sometimes you feel it, and sometimes you don't. Sometimes, but I think the more tired you got, the harder it was to manage it because you're just like you don't have those tools at your consciousness level to like, hey, let me compartmentalize these pains or let me. So it's like once you're too tired, you can't manage it, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
that becomes with the pain or the emotions like. Like the more tired you get, the harder it is to do anything. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that definitely was probably one of the biggest challenges was how do you, and honestly, I talked to so many people who had done 200s or had DNF'd 200s, and that was the consistency across everybody was prioritize sleep. Like if you don't, there was one guy that said he had made it at Moab 237 miles before he DNF'd, 3 miles short of the finish line. And he had made it to the last aid station, and he goes, I had felt great, and I knew should have slept, and I skipped it. And as soon as he skipped it, he said, right around 237, he fell apart. He goes, he started hallucinating. The floor looked like it was a treadmill, so he could only walk sideways. Like his mind just fell apart. And we saw that with Robbie. Like
Yeah.
if we
No,
didn't
Robbie
pick,
would have made it with only a
yeah,
few miles left.
yeah, and that's the scary thing is like he literally fell apart, and the difference was like I stopped and I slept for 20 minutes, which was just enough to make me coherent enough as to
Mm-hmm.
where he was like, I'm going to push through. And I truly think like once you start descending into madness, like how you can't individually pull yourself out of that.
It's a spiral for sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
and
Yeah. That's,
and like it doesn't even become physical. It becomes like he was literally calling his wife or his girlfriend, telling her that this race isn't real, none of this is real, and then a
yeah.
jester shows up.
Right?
But yeah, I mean, like I don't think Robbie. There's a very good chance he wouldn't have finished had we not been there of saying like, hey, it's okay, come with us, just follow us.
Yeah. Even if we're imaginary, follow us.
Yeah, because of the fact that, and it's not that he physically couldn't do it, his
Right.
mind was playing tricks on him.
Mad tricks. Yeah. No, for sure. That's
It's wild. I know you and I kind of talked about it on our section. I asked you during it, like, because we were running, we had a really good pace. It might have been one of the 13-minute miles. I was thinking like, man, you're 220 miles in, and you're running pretty good. Like you're shuffling as well as you would be in 100, right? So I was like, are you in more pain, or is it just the same amount of pain? Pain is just pain, and you just have to endure it for 5 days versus 1 or 2 days, And you're like, I don't know, this is pretty painful.
Yeah, I mean, but I think it's the same. I mean, like
Yeah,
honestly, even just like in general, I feel like I'm recovering about the exact same amount, if not better now than I did when I finished my 100.
yeah.
yeah,
Granted, I put in way more volume in training leading up to this, but like, I mean, we put an insane amount of miles on my feet. Didn't change my shoes one time,
yeah.
and I'm wearing the least amount of cushion shoes you could wear in the ultra world.
What do you
Like
run?
um, the Lone Peak Ultras. I mean, yeah, I guess I could have done sandals, but like the
You're cool.
the Ultras, like the Lone Peaks, they don't have a lot of cushion. They're not much in there. Um, so yeah,
If you could have um, had another pair of shoes, maybe more cushion, like looking back, would you have liked to switch out your shoes?
as long as they were as wide, because so one thing I would have said is I would have bought wider or like a couple size up shoes, because as my feet started to swell, like socks, I should have had a 2 size bigger socks, and then having as I did a thumbs up, a little thumbs
Yeah.
up.
That what that was?
Yeah, I was like, whoa.
I was like, is somebody watching this?
Yeah, I thought it was from behind me. I was like,
Crazy.
am I still hallucinating?
Yep, you're
um,
nuts.
but yeah, so as I would have bought just sizes bigger for shoes and for socks, because it became, especially those Injinji toe socks, like putting those things on swollen feet were
Yeah.
so difficult.
No,
Especially when
Imagine
you're
a lot of your time right there.
So
Well, that's what I was
much
gonna say. When you're in a time crunch and you're like, "Ugh, don't pull the tape she just put on off too.
not to mention the cream you wanted, so it was like wet and swollen. It's impossible to get
And the
soft
tape.
and tape.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had a lot going on with your feet.
And we're trying to not hurt you anymore. Like, I know your feet are sensitive. Super
They were
sensitive.
sensitive in a good way.
Yeah,
I'm
can we share with the people about maybe this thing that happened to you with your feet?
I'm really disappointed it's gone. So so the weirdest thing, like I'd say like probably around 70, this sensation, I think it was because there was so much pain in my feet, but like the tickling, if I were to tickle the bottom of my feet, it had the most pleasurable sensation possible. It was insane, and I don't know how to explain it. And I don't know if it's because of the conflicting nerves where you have severe pain nerves and then this like dulled tickling and they're combative, or I don't know, but it was so nice and it's
All,
gone.
all I know is that I would peek inside the camper and we'd be wanting you to get going and you just be touching your feet, man.
I'd just be rubbing my feet.
You'd just be
Tell
tickling
me.
your
I'd be asking your wife to rub my feet.
I know, and then when you told me it was so pleasurable, I'm like, I don't know if I'm okay with this
No,
anymore.
we had this conversation. Like, I'm the type of crew member and pacer that's like, all things are out the window. There's no TMI. There's no filter. It's fine because it's just mission to get the mission done, right? And so there's been experiences like with your brother that I'm like, I'll volunteer, and he's like, hell no, you won't, you know. And this was like one of them.
Put some chafing cream on his butthole.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
it was. I told that story.
Yeah.
And but this wasn't like we didn't realize it was to this point. So Jessup's like,
we didn't realize Justin was getting off on it.
He didn't have a foot fetish.
he was like, maybe I should put a Theragun to my foot, and I was like, I think that's super invasive for how traumatized your feet are already. Like, I'll just kind of give him a nice little like massage, and then we'll get you on your way. Hours later, he's like, you know, I was thinking about that massage on my feet, and I don't think that's a really good idea. I was like, why? It's like, I don't think Will would feel very comfortable if I'm just coming to his wife massaging my feet. I was like, well, if it makes you feel better, Will can do it. And he's like, that just takes our relationship to a whole new level.
Doesn't make it any better.
Yeah.
Doesn't make it better.
I don't know if there was a right answer for that.
But it was weird, man. Like, I don't know how. It was like a very.
Joey. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah, it just Joey the medic.
Joey. Yup.
But it was just like a weird sensation that I think, you know, it makes you think, because like there's a lot of those, you know, you hear about those like BDSM and those like people that get off on pain stuff, and you're always like, why? Like, how is that possible? But that like genuinely was a sensation that I never would have expected when my feet were at that pain level. And then it's just, I think it just has something to do with your nerve endings being just so confused that it's like communicating this very weird. It's very similar sensation to if you've ever had like your back tickled, where it's like very, very soft and just like calming. When I was joking about it being pleasurable or sexual, but it's just more of like it just was so nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, kind of going back a little bit off of this topic, we should keep it PG. Was there anything obviously?
Nothing about Ultra is PG. It's
Yeah.
the least graceful sport possible. There's
You know what?
people.
This is super random, but I was thinking when I was unloading my bag the other day, like taking out like my pack of the food and stuff that I let you eat out of. I looked at my pack of dates and dried tangerine. I was letting you try some of those. And I was thinking, God, I wonder which hand he was putting in there after he was putting the chafing cream on his butthole. And I was also eating out of the same bag. I was like,
But that's the thing is it's so like even just when I was looking at my fingernails, I was like, oh my gosh, it's so disgusting how much shit was just cake.
but
Not
you
not
don't think
shit,
about that.
but yeah, I mean,
It's just
and
survival and getting
it
the job done.
it is survival, and I think that's part of what makes it so. That's probably why I'm having PTSD is because it literally put me in survival mode. I
Yeah.
mean, like never in my life would I have laid down on a side of a trail where there's scorpions and rattlesnakes and just been like, wake me up.
Yeah,
I'm asleep in seconds.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
literally.
Like
So
legitimately didn't care. I was laying in ants. I was like you just, I mean, it was
the one
survival.
thing you were more, the one thing you cared more about was like the angle of the hill. Are you
What do
there?
you mean? Yeah, what do you mean? Like,
Yeah, what do you mean?
Like, like, is the hill slope off the side of the trail this way? Is it flat? Like, we tried to find you something with at least a rock to lay your head on, you
yeah.
know, but no scorpions or snakes. Who cares about that?
Well, and then it got to a point where it didn't even matter what the angle. I was just laying
No.
down. Like,
No.
yeah, it got to a point where it was just like, this is where I can stop? Cool. I think
Did you
that
ever?
three,
Was there ever a point in the race where you? Well, I kind of know the answer to this. Can you tell us any times in the race where you thought your race was over?
multiple times. Yeah, I mean, there were several times where there's one in particular that like I genuinely thought it was over. There's a few times where I thought like, man, if I don't pick up the pace, it was going to be over. But there was one in particular where they told me it was over, and we'll start with the other ones where like, I mean, I was cutting it short. I mean, one of the aid stations, I literally had they were coming to tell me that I was done, and I had to put my socks on. I didn't even put the toes in the toe parts of the socks, and I shoved my feet in them. They're not even like tied or anything, and I'm waddling out, just like, all right, I'm out. And then once I got out of the aid station, then I put my shoes on and did all that, and then like right after that section, I had to run because I didn't have like it was like I had 4 hours to go 13 miles, four and a half
Oh,
hours to go 13 miles, and you're like, fuck, that's
Yeah,
like, you
that's
know,
bad.
when you're at 140 miles in, that's just insane. And so, uh, I had to dig super deep and run and just lock in and move. And we made it to and the thing is like, that's cool if you make it to the aid station in time, but then you have zero time to do anything when you're there too. So
yeah,
it's like, oh wow, you made it just to go again. There's no resting. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
so with that particular one, we made it with 15 minutes to spare, which was way past what even, I mean, we thought we were going to be cut on that one. That was like cutting it super close anyway, and I just cooked. And so then once we got there, I had enough time to go to the bathroom and eat just something quickly, and then we asked if we could sleep. Like I was like checked out, and then I was gonna try to. There was enough time in this next one for me to make up and maybe get some sleep. And so I thought, hey, I'm gonna sleep in the RV, and they told me no, that we can't do that because that's getting aid from the road, and you're not allowed to get aid
Mhm.
from the road. So we had to literally just lay down off the side of the road and get some sleep, which then was freezing cold and miserable. And so Val and I get our space blankets, uh, find this like pile of straw or whatever it was, and built this little kind of like nook and kind of cuddled in there together just to stay warm, which was really hard because my body is like not regulating temperature very well. I remember waking up and I couldn't move my hand. Like all my muscles were so tight, I literally could not move my hand and open them. And so then we like get up and I'm like, all right, we got to get going. And I look at the GPS and the sweeps past us, and there's like no flags anywhere. And I'm like, what's going on? They're not supposed to go past you, especially if you're not past the cutoff time.
Yeah.
And so they're literally, I think, supposed to sit and wait and watch you sleep.
Yeah.
And so then I text the emergency number and I said, "Hey, I think the sweeps have passed me and there's no flags." And they look and they're like, "Yeah, it looks like they're about 3 kilometers ahead of you." And I'm like, "Well, what am I supposed to do? I don't have there's no flags." And they said, "Well, just follow your GPS or watch." I was like, "Okay." And so we're just following that, which can kind of be a little sketchy, it's, especially that late in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And um, so then I turned my phone on do not disturb or airplane mode because I'm trying to save battery, and I ended up getting another text that I didn't see until later once I turned my phone on, and it said that if if you want to continue, you need to catch the sweeps before they reach the aid station, which is a complete like that's there was no cutoff time at this aid station, so I wasn't. That was like a new rule that they just
Yeah.
introduced, and I was like, "What the hell?" There was by the time I saw that, it was absolutely impossible for me to catch them before the aid station.
Right.
So I I kept running, but I think at that moment it was a mental battle because my mind was going, well, it can be over. Like they're the ones telling you don't have to continue, that you can be done, and now I can go sleep and go do whatever. And it absolved me of any responsibility for quitting.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a mental battle of, hey, you need to stand on principle and can continue. And so once we got there, the lady was like, I was told you're not allowed to continue, and I had to say like, no, I can continue, like let me go. There is no cut. I had to vouch for myself, and Val was there too helping, but it was hard to push aside that kind of voice that's saying just be done, just like you can take the easy route out and be absolved of all failure because they are the ones that made the mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And instead I they said, well, if you're good to go, you can go. And uh and we did. And yeah, I mean, I thought I was done. They told me I was done, and we still did it.
Yeah.
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 I think that honestly, like that is such a huge part in this whole story is all the times that you had these outs. You know what I mean? You had these little outs, like you said, like they, if they said it, you were done. I mean, that's not in your responsibility, but the fact that you made the choice to like, no, I'm not done. I can still make it. You know, like that is like such a big highlight in this whole
Yeah.
race for me personally, and just makes me so proud of you as my friend. Just knowing that you did that and you took that responsibility in the state that you were in. It's
Yeah,
not
for
like
sure.
you're comfortable and you're making that decision. Like you want to be done. Your body
Ev-
is telling you to be done. Every
Everything is telling you just quit. Just
and you
like,
still have another day and a night.
yeah,
And it's
literally.
part of the
I still had 50 something miles to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and we're going to kind of talk about this in your video that you make, but this theme a little bit was about having like little ultra life lessons. And I feel like that is a huge one. Like exactly what you just said. That's a life lesson itself. How many outs do we get? And we can blame it on somebody else. But do we take initiative to basically buckle up and do what needs to be done? You know,
Sure.
that's
No,
cool.
I mean, like, I'm proud of myself because I know how hard it was. Like, I know how much that voice was just saying, like, it was literally going, well, I'm okay with it if I don't. And, and like, when you're okay with it, that becomes dangerous because you're like,
Mhm.
yeah, I've already made peace with it. And you're like, how do you fight against that?
Do you think this race has changed you at all?
I'm sure. I think it's a little early to say, just because, I mean, like I said, it really truly doesn't feel real yet. There's still
Mm.
so much. Um, but
It's gonna, I feel like it's gonna be a while before it, I don't know if it's ever gonna feel real, but you're gonna look back, enough time is gonna pass by and you're gonna look back at footage and stuff. But it's kind of a crazy, you've finished 100 and this is even like times that. But it's kind of one of those weird things like, does that ever feel real? You know?
yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I think, I think only time will tell. Like, who knows? I mean, I think it did teach a lot, uh, teach myself a lot about myself. I haven't been necessarily super stoked with how I've recovered. Like, I've, already broke my running streaks, through this, but like at the same time, I'm just like, I want to recover correctly. um,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
I mean, just leading up to this whole thing, I feel like I put so much into it. It's not even just the race, it was countless amounts of volume of training that went into this. Um, and I also put off a lot of like thinking about what I'm going to do in life, like what's next after this as far as where I'm going
Mhm.
to live and stuff like that. And so, I do think that right now I'm just trying to kind of come down on everything that I put off so that I can figure out, all right, what is next? Where am I going to go? What is the plan with my son? And um, just want to get back into a healthy routine, and then also put a major focus on making videos and
Mhm.
working on that type of stuff. So
Do you have you thought or have you had any thoughts or given any weight to signing up for any other races?
no,
Okay. Just had to ask.
yeah, no. Everybody keeps asking it, and I'm like, it's not even something I've thought about at all right now.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was a big one.
that was a big for sure.
For the
Yeah.
record, Will and I think that you will probably eventually sign up for another one. Not maybe a 250, but smaller races just
I'll
because.
I'll probably do a 50. I want to do a 50 with the video idea that I've told you about.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, I think like 50 is one that like, yeah, like I think 50 is an easy train. Like, you don't have to kill yourself. It's
You're not
easy.
committing a ton of time and training.
Yeah, it's
Like,
easy recovery. I could do it by myself without a ton of logistics. Like,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
uh, 250,
This
100, even 100 now seems like, oh yeah, I could probably do another 100. The only thing
What?
about hundreds is the time, like it's faster, but
Yeah. I was gonna say the hundreds. What's kind of crazy to me, what's mind blowing, is like you take 2 days kind of to do 100. Typically it's like around 30 hours or whatever,
yeah,
and like it's so crazy because that happened so fast and it's such fast moving. But then you have one of these races at 250 miles, and you literally have to take a week or 10 days off to go do it. It's such a
Yeah.
weird. You're like, it's twice the distance, and 2.5 times the distance for this one. But like, it's crazy how it just takes so much time. It is a huge commitment to go do a 250-mile race.
Then you also add that 40,000 feet of elevation, and you're like, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's just so much climbing. I mean, I
Yeah.
was just looking at the footage, and you're just like, holy crap, those are big mountains.
Well, the one thing I will say about Cocodona, and even though we only got to see maybe the back half of it, was that looked like a unbelievable course. The people who put it on did an amazing job. The aid stations were good. The flagging seemed like it was pretty good for a 250-mile course.
It was great,
Uh,
except for one section.
Yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah.
honestly, it seemed like a great production, and I could see that being a really highlight A race in the future if it isn't already.
Hmm.
I, I honestly, like, they did an incredible job. I mean,
Yeah.
And
that
their media team is awesome.
Holy Toledo,
dude,
they're so.
they yeah, they do such an awesome job. I think like the excitement that they've built. Let's be real, like it's a slow race. The
Hmm.
people are hiking, people, even the fastest people are moving pretty freaking slow. You're not like, oh my gosh, he's about to pass him. It's like,
You know,
um,
yeah,
it's a
they take
slow
time.
race, but
Yeah,
they did such a great job that I had people watching from all over that were excited about it.
Yeah.
Like I think that they made something that is not necessarily an exciting sport something fun to follow and
Yeah.
watch, and it was an absolutely gorgeous course. It was, like you said, really well done. Having sleep stations, like the one sleep station that I did stay at was pretty cool. I had my own bunk room. I mean, I think that was because I came in last, but um, the medics were cleaning my feet and taping my feet up. Like that was huge. It was really, really, really well done.
yeah.
That's awesome. I do want to touch on a super awesome topic that you've kind of organized and um, tell us about the fundraiser that you've been putting on and trying to kind of do before the race, during the race, and now you're going to continue after the race.
Yeah, so we did have a kind of interactive fundraiser during the race. The interactive part didn't go quite the way that we had anticipated just because of how many logistics were happening. The plan initially was to release a video every day as we were running. However, with Wi-Fi situations, data situations, I might need to move inside. It's getting windy, but with all of these like little things, it made it pretty difficult for Tiago to edit the videos and get them out, which put a little bit of a hamper on the actual interactive part. But the actual fundraiser itself was kind of served multi purposes. So, one, to recoup the costs of doing this whole thing because it was not cheap. Um, it was several $1,000s
There's still
into
people on
this.
it.
Yeah, and so a lot of it was our big chunk was to recoup some of these costs to do it, and then we also had a charity unlock. So once we had hit the kind of expense threshold, then it would unlock a portion of everything getting donated to a charity called Suffer Out Loud. Suffer Out Loud is an organization out of Bozeman, Montana, with the mission to reduce suicide rates in Montana, as well as just kind of talking about it as a whole. Montana and Wyoming both have some of the highest suicide rates in the entire country. and it like nobody really talks about it still. As much as it seems like mental health has become more and more talked about and more normalized, like suicides are happening regularly, but they're never written about in newspapers. Families, I think, are so embarrassed by it that they try to suppress it as much as possible. And so you don't realize how often they're happening around you. And
Mm.
it's incredibly concerning. And so Suffer Out Loud has a scholarship program where the money that we're going to raise will directly go into their scholarship program to help offset mental health services for people who qualify. So they have an application process where people can apply, and then they'll get some of their mental health services covered. And we're still going to run this fundraiser. I gotta kind of tweak a few things on the website. It's jusupsucks.com, JUSUPSUCKS.com, and we're going to continue the fundraiser. It's going to kind of coincide with the video that I'm going to be working on. But I think it's a very important topic to me just because when I was younger, I had almost killed myself when I was in high school, and I struggled with severe depression. And I think it's something that we do need to talk about. And right now, I feel like depression and anxiety is glorified more than it is just talked about. And I think there's a balance between, like glorifying it, making it cool, and because it's not cool. It's not a cool way to live, and it's not a cool way to feel. But we all have some sort of responsibility within ourselves to get a grasp of that. And I want to at least talk about it and see if there's ways that we can help other people
Hmm.
get through that. So, and what better thing to do for an organization called Suffer Out Loud than to spend 5 days suffering out loud?
Yeah, it's very fitting and
Yeah.
very, very cool of you to team up with those guys. So people can find that at jusupsucks.com. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. Um, well, as I think we start to kind of wrap this up a little bit, if you were to give anybody advice on maybe a race coming up that they want to do, or if they were going to do this race, like, do you have any advice that you would give to people?
Run a 5K.
Not do this.
Yeah, don't do 250 miles. Honestly, if I were to be training uh, again for this particular race, I would say put a huge focus on time on feet as opposed to mileage, because I wish I would have spent more time hiking or speed walking rather than running, because hiking, you do a whole hell of a lot more hiking and speed walking, especially the more tired you get. And just having great speed walking form is just as important as having running and volume, particularly in something like this. Um, and get ready to get beat up. I mean, that's literally it. Like, you just are gonna hit the biggest lows you've ever felt, and you gotta still keep going.
Is there any advice you'd give to somebody mentally, not just physically, like how to get through something like that on an emotional level?
But I mean, same thing. Like, get ready to get beat up. There's no way
Hmm.
around it. You're gonna hurt. It's gonna suck, and you just have to keep going. There's, you have to find out what you're capable of doing and do more than that when you think you have nothing left to give.
Yeah,
Right on.
for sure. Was there anything you want to leave us with or leave the people with as we wrap up here?
Um, what's up, sugar babies? No. uh, yeah, no.
What about
Honestly,
any socials to follow?
yeah. I mean, you can follow me at Jusup11 on any short form social platforms. YouTube, it's the third most watched. So 3RDMOSTWATCHED.
Good job.
But what I want to say is like, 18 months ago, I survived a life-threatening spine infection. 10 years ago, I was hit by a snowmobile and in a wheelchair and have had surgery on both knees. And despite all of those things, I feel like standing at that starting line, I truly feel blessed to even be able to show up and try to do it. And I think that mindset in itself is what got me through it, because you can say, I have to do this, or like you can focus on the pain and the things that suck when you're out there, but focusing on the gratitude and the things of just the opportunity to be there and to show up and to even try is so powerful. That, and this goes for any and everything in life, is look at the things that you have the opportunity to do. Like when you wake up in the morning and you have to go to work, instead of thinking I have to go to work, like what an opportunity to be able to go to work. What an opportunity to be able to cook breakfast. And I think just shifting our mindsets into looking at gratitude on every single level in life will have such a powerful and visceral change within ourselves that's what can get you through anything.
Yeah.
I like it.
It's very well said.
Yeah. Well said, buddy. Well, hey, man, thank you so much for chatting with us today and reliving some of the journey, the Cocodona 250.
Thank
And
you. Thank you both for being there. I mean, it seriously meant the world. I I feel truly blessed to have friends like you be there and support me, and I don't think I could have gotten through it without you guys. So thank you guys both, and I truly love you.
yeah,
We love you too, man.
well, we got a lot more journeys ahead of us as usual, man. I'm sure we'll have some
Let's
more
focus
stuff.
on ones that are not as painful.
Maybe we'll do something a little bit funner, less painful.
Well, let's go.
Who can stay in the hammock the longest?
Let's go cross an ocean. That'll be hard, but not so much like impact.
Yeah.
Feet.
Just on your stomach, maybe.
Yeah.
How many books can we read on the beach?
Yeah. I like that. All right, man. Thank you so much. And yeah, stay on after we get off of here real fast, and then we'll let you go.
All right. Bye,
All right,
everybody.
See you later.
Thanks, Jess.